Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I am bringing you guys a tour of my Unhaul cart. So in 2021 I am doing a little bit of an unhaul project. I have posted the first installment, but essentially I just have a ton of books on my shelves that I've had for a very long time. Most of them I picked up secondhand or have been gifted to me by family members, may not be exactly to my taste. They could have come in subscription boxes, and while I am interested in the majority of books I get from subscription boxes, there is the odd one that I don't think I'm going to be really into. So to clear through some of these books, I am trying to do an unhaul series where in my weekly reading vlogs every so often I'm going to dedicate the entire week to reading through some of the books on the cart, because I do still want to read a lot of them. There are types of books that I actually really enjoy reading, but when I've read them I don't see the point in holding on to them, and those types of genres I don't reach for very often because while I do enjoy them, they're not my favorite genres. They're not typically fantasy or sci-fi. So when I posted the first installment in this little unhaul series, I asked if you guys wanted to see a tour of the cart so that you guys would get a good idea of what books are going to be coming up in further installments of this little series I'm doing. You guys said you wanted that, so today I am just going to be giving you a tour of the unhaul cart. I'm going to try and split it down into genres a little bit and give you a very brief synopsis of the books that are on the cart. I don't know a lot about the majority of the books on the cart, especially things like the thrillers and the contemporaries, because thrillers I like to go in quite blind, and when I've read them, when I've been thrilled, I don't see the point in rereading them, which is why I unhaul them. And contemporaries, as someone who isn't a contemporary reader, I get most of my recommendations for contemporaries on BookTube, and then if I see them secondhand I do tend to pick them up, and I do generally enjoy them in the moment. A lot of them can be like cute, sweet, like young adult coming of age stories which just make me feel happy, you know. Some of them are more hard hitting, but I picked them up on other people's recommendations. I haven't really done the research myself, so I don't know a great deal about those ones. And then there are just like the couple of odd bits, and if I'm not overly interested in them, again, I don't do the research to find out a great deal of what they're about. So we're going to start off with just like a little overview of the cart so you can see what everything looks like, and then we are going to start going through the books on there. I thought I would just show you what the cart looks like because it does sit here next to my desk, but I am going to be moving it for the duration of this video. So up at the top it says Hamilton, and we have an Owlcrate blanket in here because Hamilton always wants to be on my desk while I'm working, so I put the cart next to my desk so that he has somewhere to sleep. Now this top section is only half stacked, there's nothing behind it, but this bottom section is double stacked. As you can see, most of the books in here are paperbacks. We only have a couple of hardbacks, and I'm going to be going through and showing you exactly what it is we have in here. So we're going to be kicking this off with fantasy. The majority of these are young adult, but not all of them. I think the most popular book in this entire video is going to be The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This one is an adult fantasy that surrounds doors. I believe our main character in here finds a door, decides not to go through it, and then finds a book in a library that details what would have happened if he'd gone through the door. I don't really like ambiguous stories, and I think The Starless Sea is just not for me. A lot of you guys have agreed and don't think I'm gonna like it, but I would like to at least give it a go. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Now this is in the unhaul cart exclusively because it isn't mine. I borrowed this from Ryan a couple of years ago now, and I have still yet to read it. So when I read this, I am going to be unhauling it, not because I think I won't like it, just because it doesn't belong to me. And as far as I'm aware, Percy Jackson is a children's series that surrounds Greek myth, and it is about a young boy who is a demigod. The Elites by Natasha Nyan is a standalone young adult fantasy. Natasha Nyan is now more famous for the Girls of Paper and Fire series. I picked this up from a charity shop before that series was even released, and I have this in the fantasy section, but I do believe it is futuristic and it follows a young woman with superior DNA. The Good Hawk by Joseph Elliott I don't actually know too much about, but it is a young adult fantasy, and I think it's dual perspective, following a young woman called Agatha who is a hawk and a young man called Jamie. The only thing I actually really know about this is that it takes place in an island kingdom. Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. This one is in the unhaul cart pretty much because I've read the first two books in the Sin Eater's Daughter series by Melinda Salisbury, and I didn't really enjoy them, and the synopsis of this doesn't really intrigue me too much. It follows a girl whose mother either disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances, and I believe that there is some kind of creature in this book, but that is all I know about it. Shadow Scent: The Darkest Bloom by PM Freestone. I have actually heard really good things about this when I mention it in videos. I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about it. All I know about this one is that the magic system surrounds scent, and I believe the way that that works into the story and the way the author has crafted that is really well done. Sisters of the Winterwood by Rena Rossner. I was really excited to read this when it was first released, but I have since not heard a single good thing about this. I actually got this from Ashley because she wasn't hauling it and I was still interested in reading it, and all I really know about this is that it is inspired by Jewish mythology and Slavic folklore, which are two things that I'm really interested in, but a lot of my friends have read it and just really not liked this one. Enchanté by Gita Trellis. This is a proof copy that I found in a charity shop. I heard tons about this when it was coming up to its release because a lot of people got ARCs, and I haven't really heard anything about it since. I think that this one is about the French Revolution, so it's a historical French setting with a fantastical element. That is all I know. I have enjoyed stories like that in the past, but this one isn't really speaking to me. Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Maria Griffin is another one that I'm interested in, but it does seem like the kind of fantasy that would be very hit or miss with me. As far as I know, this is about a house that burns down, and nobody knows what happened apart from the niece and nephew of the people who died in the fire. The fantastical element in here seems like it's really ambiguous, which is something that traditionally I don't like, but I'm still intrigued to give it a try. Next up we have the thrillers, and these ones I do know very little about. Just because they are thrillers, I tend to go into them quite blind, and my general policy with thrillers is just when I've read them, unless I really love them, I do just unhaul them because I don't foresee myself ever rereading them when I know the twists. So first off we have Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. I believe that this follows a woman who used to go to a prestigious boarding school, and something happened at that boarding school that has been kept a secret for a very long time, and as the main character is about to get married, she invites like a journalist to her wedding, and secrets about what happened at the school start to come to the surface. Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty is a very popular one. I believe the main reason for that is that it was turned into a TV show, and literally all I know about this is that it follows a group of women. I'm guessing it's kind of like a suburbia setting, and I believe it's the drama between them and their children, all focused on this town that they live in. 6-4 by Hideo Yokiyama is about a young girl who's kidnapped in the late 80s, and for the days that followed the kidnapping, her parents were receiving demands from the kidnappers. However, the police botched the job, so the parents never saw their daughter again and they never found out who kidnapped her. I believe that the bulk of this story takes place around 15 years in the future, where a detective reopens the case and starts to discover some things about what actually happened. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn is about a reporter who has recently been admitted to a psych hospital, and when she is released she has to go back to the town where she grew up to cover the unsolved murder of a preteen girl and the disappearance of another one. I believe that The Cousins by Karen M. McManus is the only young adult thriller that I own, and this is about a group of cousins who have never met their grandmother because their parents were disinherited a while back, and they all receive a mysterious invitation to go and work at the very rich grandmother's island resort for the summer, and through that they start to uncover some secrets of the past and find out the exact reasons why their parents were actually disinherited. So for literary fiction, I only really have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is the kind of book that you guys know I would not normally read, but Donna Tartt is extremely popular, so I would like to read her books at least once. This one I know surrounds a painting, and I think the main character is a boy who survives a tragic accident but loses his mother, and throughout the course of his life he ends up working with a criminal underworld. I don't really know much about it because I've just heard good things and I want to read it at least once, but literary fiction really isn't my thing. The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan I don't actually know too much about, aside from that it is the first first book in a young adult zombie series, and I feel like it is quite futuristic. It's set many years after some sort of zombie apocalypse, and little villages and communities have sprouted up, but that is literally all I can tell you about this. The Enemy by Charlie Higson is one that I have actually tried to read previously and DNF'd. The only reason I haven't unhauled this is because it is one of the books that I bought in New York in 2014. It is a zombie story yet again, and in this one the zombie virus specifically targeted adults, so all of the children are left to fend for themselves essentially, and I just found the writing style to be very juvenile. I will admit I didn't get very far into it. I don't want to unhaul it because I bought it as a souvenir, but I also really don't want to read it, so I'm just really torn with what to do about this. For science fiction, the first one I have is The Power by Naomi Alderman. However, I will say that this is also literary fiction. I picked this up because it was very highly recommended, won a bunch of awards, and it was on Obama's best books of I think 2017, and with it having a sci-fi element, I am remotely interested in it, and I think this takes place in a society where women have acquired the power to electrocute people, and so there's been a big shift in power dynamics between men and women, with women now being much more powerful than men. The 100 by Cass Morgan, I picked this up years ago because I was interested in the TV show. Still haven't watched the TV show, still haven't read the book, but I did sample the first chapter of this for a try chapter tag and was mildly interested in it. All I know about this one is that it is about 100 like juvenile delinquent alien children who are sent down to Earth to make it habitable again. Nerve by Gian Ryan is another one that I sampled a chapter of, quite liked it, but I have heard that this is better in concept than execution, and this one surrounds a game called Nerve, and you can either join as a player or a watcher, and the game is a series of dares that get more and more like challenging and dangerous as the rounds progress. So The Fandom by Anna Day, not really sure whether this is more of a fantasy or a sci-fi, but we're just rolling with it. This one is young adult. It's an art copy that was included in an Illumicrate a few years back. I got it from Ryan when he wasn't hauling it, and it is about a group of teenagers who go to Comic-Con to see the cast of their favourite film and end up sucked into the movie. The next few books I believe are mainly contemporary, but they all have a sci-fi element. The first one being We All Looked Up by Tommy Wallach. I believe that in this one everyone has been told that an asteroid is going to strike and wipe out humanity in 2 months, and it is about a group of people who grow closer during this time. Seems like a kind of end of the world breakfast club kind of situation. The Last Boy and Girl in the World by Siobhan Vivian is about a town that is sliding underwater, and everyone is packing up getting ready to leave, and the teenagers in town are living out their last days in town together, doing some really crazy, some really wild things before they all have to pack up and move and be separated. I hope you get this message by Farah Naz Rishi. Earth has been contacted by an alien planet who have decided that they are going to hit the kill switch on humanity and Earth. So 3 teenagers who feel like they have nothing left to lose come into contact during this time, and I don't know, I'm assuming it's about like self-discovery, acceptance, and all of that good stuff. Now for the contemporary, we have The Deep Blue Between by Ayesha Haruna Attar. This one was sent to me in an ARC pack. Of all of the ones that were included, this is the one that I didn't get to, and this is about 2 twin sisters whose home is destroyed in a brutal raid, and they both end up living very separate lives. One of them is in Brazil and one of them is on the Gold Coast of West Africa, but despite living very different lives, they remain connected through shared dreams. The Disreputable History of Frankie Landau Banks by E. Lockhart. I know very little about this. I've read a couple of E. Lockhart books before and enjoyed them for like the shocking plot twist element. Don't know if this is the same kind of story. The synopsis is kind of vague, and all I know is that it follows a teenage girl called Frankie Landau Banks. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman is a adult contemporary story that I've heard really good things about. I believe that there is autism rep in here, although I'm not sure if it is actually on the page or just implied, but it is about Eleanor Oliphant, who has a very regimented, strict routine, and her life is absolutely fine, but she doesn't really do much to push herself outside of her comfort zone, and all of that changes when she meets a guy called Raymond, who is the IT guy in her office. The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filer is another one that has a very ambiguous synopsis. Once again, I believe it is adult. It is about a young boy, but this story also follows him into adulthood. When he was very young, him himself and his older brother snuck out in the middle of the night, but only the main character came back safely, and 10 years later he says that he's found a way to bring his brother back. Next up we have 3 books by David Nichols. One Day by David Nichols is one of my favorite books of all time, but I've yet to read any of his other books, even though I have, I think, all of them. So Stars of a 10 is an adult rom-com that surrounds the British TV show University Challenge. It also has a really great movie that I love. The understudy literally could not tell you a single thing about this one is about, but I do imagine it is once again an adult rom-com style book. And Us, I believe, is his most recent release, and it is the one that I think I will enjoy the most because it seems the most similar to One Day. And it is about 2 people, Douglas and Connie, who got married, and 30 years later they're well into their married life. They have a teenage son, and once again I think it is just going to be another rom-com. Alice in Wonderland by Simon James Green, I once again know very little about, but I believe that this one is a queer coming of age story about a young boy who gets a job in somewhere called Wonderland, which is a rundown amusement park, and he starts to develop feelings for his co-worker, who unfortunately has a girlfriend. I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman I picked up because I have read and really enjoyed the If I Stayed duology, although that was quite a while ago when I still really loved young adult contemporary. I don't really read it as much anymore, but this one is about 3 characters who have lost their way, and they stumble into each other in Central Park and start to reveal parts of their past that they haven't been able to confront and work through them together. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell is one that I've heard great things about, but once again I don't really read young adult contemporary anymore. And this one is about twin sisters who both go to university. They both used to write a lot of fan fiction. The main character Kath still does, she's still really into that fandom, but as they go to university her sister starts to move away from that and really throw herself into the college experience, which leaves Kath feeling quite isolated. Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World by Ashley Herring Blake is a queer children's story that takes place just after Hurricane Katrina, where a young girl has lost her sketch pad and she keeps getting pages of it pushed through her locker at school, and in her sketch pad she has pictures of things like girls holding hands that she never intended people to see. A List of Cages by Robin Rowe is another one that I've heard great things about. I don't really know too much about the plot in this, but I believe that it has great ADHD rep in here and it deals with some heavy topics. And then finally I have 3 books by Rachel Cohn and David Levithon. The first 2 are Dash and Lily's Book of Dares and The 12 Days of Dash and Lily. They're the first 2 books in the Dash and Lily series, and in this one we follow Dash and Lily. Lily has left a notebook full of challenges on a bookstore shelf. Dash finds it and they start to communicate via this book and completing the dares. And then Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist is of course about Nick and Nora, and the story starts when Nick asks Nora to be his girlfriend for 5 minutes as he's just seen his ex-girlfriend walk in and would like to avoid her. So there you have it. Those are the books that are on my unhaul cart. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these and you think that they're not even worth me reading them just for the sake of unhauling them. If you think that I should just unhaul them, do let me know. If it is one that I'm interested in, especially if it is like a thriller, then I'm probably going to read it anyway, but I would be very interested in hearing which of these books you guys just really don't think is worth the read. But that is it for this video, guys, so please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish Candle website, the Instagram for that, and 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're a go and nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.